Now, you could be excused for not knowing what ship I'm in right now. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Even the UI is still the old UI. It seems like this is a ship that everyone, including CIG, has forgotten about. Recently, Chris Roberts made a post on the forums, and he talked about the gameplay loops that they have closed in Star Citizen, one of them being piracy. Well, we're going to talk about some of the pirate gameplay loops, their current state, what needs to be done to actually get them to a point that would be considered a viable Tier 0 implementation. So join me for this episode when we deal with the Herald, hacking, and the criminally missing gameplay loop of data running. Now, hacking is actually something that's been in the game for quite some time. In fact, those of you who've been playing since 2.0, 3-4 years ago, will know that what I'm doing right now, which is shutting down a relay satellite, is something that we've had in the game for years and years and years. This is something that has existed for a long, long time. Now, it has been iterated upon. Of course, now you have to go get a hacking chip first before you can hack the relay satellite. And the reason for that, I think, is that the Herald, which is the data running and hacking ship, has never been all that popular within the community. And so gating this content behind the Herald for CIG didn't seem like all that great of an idea. They wanted to have this loop in here where you could hack the relay satellites if you were a criminal. Other players would get a mission to come back and turn the satellite on or stop the hack. And this kind of created friction within the community where two players would collide, each fighting over the same resource or the same objective, and that's how we get our PvP. You kind of give players reasons to collide. All you have to really do is, in a way, just lay out the basic system for the players, put it in front of them, and then let them build the content themselves. That's emergent gameplay 101 right there. So overall, it has been a fairly successful system, though it does kind of smack in the face of Herald owners, because this is a gameplay loop that they are supposed to have access to that, simply because of time and resources or interest, CIG has actually never fulfilled. And it has gotten to the point where it's actually become something of a meme. You can honestly say that the Herald has been in game for almost 5 years now, has been a flyable ship for almost 5 years, and it has still yet to have any of its gameplay implemented. Think about that for a second. Like, the ship itself has been in game for 5 years, or almost, and yet zero iteration on any of its gameplay. In fact, when I was showing you the UI in the beginning, you might think, oh, that's old footage. No, that's recent footage. They haven't even updated the cockpit UI for the Herald with the latest patch. All the other ships seemingly got it, except for the Herald. There's probably one or two other exceptions out there that I didn't see. But, when I was showing this to a buddy, they were like, oh my God, the Herald still has the same UI. And I think that was even a viewer comment recently on one of my videos. And it's like, yeah, no one's bothered. But this is hacking. This is the way that hacking is now. And this is available to everyone. Okay, so good. We have basic hacking. It's available to everyone. You simply have to be on site, use a chip, open up the connection, hack in, turn off the satellite, or change your crime stat depending on where you're going and what you're trying to do, shut it down and leave. You use up one hacking chip to do this, great. But the Herald is a hacking ship, so do we really need a hacking chip for the Herald? No. What I would like to do is I would like to propose a change. When you go in and you purchase your hacking chips, and we're using Rudo's shop at Grim Hex as the example here, what you see is a whole bunch of hacking chips more or less repeated again and again and again and again. It's the same chips over and over again, and you can pick different chips. Some are faster, some are slower, some are more secure, some are less secure. What I would say is replace the other half of the chips here with remote access chips. So instead of being direct access chips that most players will be able to buy right now that they can go and hack right at the terminal, this chip goes into the terminal and allows you to hack that remotely. So rather than just dropping the chip in and then starting this crypto key initiated, all it does is empower you to remotely access that satellite. Basically, think of it like a Wi-Fi connection. Some chips are more expensive because they allow you to operate from further away, but they also come with a bandwidth weakness. They're slower, whereas the faster chips have to be operated from closer. Why that is, we'll get into that in a second. So let's say you've gone in, you've dropped your chip, and now you have remote access to the satellite. So you get back to your Herald, you go, you open up the antenna. Now this button currently doesn't work. It used to work where it would deploy the antenna to the Herald, but that function has since been removed. But you come back, you go to your Herald, you turn on the antenna and you enable remote access. Now you're able to access that chip that you planted in the satellite. What's the first thing that you're going to do is, well, hack into the satellite. Now, initially, we could basically reuse the existing mechanic, except, let's say, for instance, we'll make it so that the furthest chip, the slowest chip, allows you to stay within 10 kilometers of the satellite and hack from out there. We can add additional mechanics in the way of you have to keep your ship stealthy. You have to keep your SIG low so that other people can't find your ship while you're doing this. Maybe the satellite generates a mission for players who are in the area to say, hey, satellite TK421 has got some strange readings. Could someone spin by and check it out? And let's say a law enforcement oriented player in the area can come and maybe even scan you out and destroy you for trying to hack into the satellite. So your satellite, first thing you're going to want to do is remove the trespass notice that you got. Just the record of your trespassing. After that, we can put in whatever kind of UI that we want to signify the data that's kind of on the satellite that we're going to steal. And so let's say some of it might be very low level, easy to download stuff that, is decent, is okay in terms of income, but maybe there are some larger chunks of data like valuable Crusader Industries or R-Corp secrets that are stored on that satellite while it's being transmitted on, and you can then steal those and then go and decrypt them. And so that, depending on what kind of chip you used, whether you're far away and it takes a lot longer to download, or you're very close up, which is a little bit riskier, but it's quicker to download. Now you can sit there and you can kind of pull that data down and store that within your ship. In the same way that ordinary ships, like let's say a prospector stores its ore or a rock stores its ore within a cargo space within it, instead of having a virtual cargo space within your ship, you now have like a hidden data capacity. And so you can download as much of this as you possibly want. Let's say it's an ideal situation, no one comes to stop you. You can download all this data and then store it within your ship in the same way someone might mine a mineral and then store it within their ship to sell it on somewhere else. The added step is, though, after that, you have to go and decrypt the data. Now, let's say that we've stolen one of these really particularly valuable data packets. Let's say it's R-Corp's. And within it, it's some very, very sensitive data that R-Corp absolutely does not want to get out. But someone like the People's Alliance over on Levski would desperately love to get that data. So that data would generate a quest or a mission for you to go and drop that off to the People's Alliance on Levski. R-Corp now knows that someone has that data, and they may not know who specifically or where exactly they are, but they know where they are going to sell it. So when you accept this mission, it now generates another mission where bounty hunters or players who are a little bit more nefarious and maybe aren't all that worried about crime stat when they're going out and taking on jobs as guns for hire might get a mission around Levski, those that are there, saying there's a ship coming in with certain sensitive data. Blow it up, no questions asked. We don't want to get the police involved because we don't want there to be an investigation and have somebody else, basically stumble over the data. So we want you guys to go sit outside of Levski, and if you happen to see a ship bringing this sensitive data in, and once you get within a certain distance, it may mark you for those players and say, this guy has the sensitive data. Or if they scan you, they might then realize that you have the sensitive data. They will now be actively trying to stop you. So this doesn't just create mission gameplay for the Herald owner. This creates gameplay for all the players around them. And we're using this as kind of like the most rewarding example. So as the data runner, let's say that you have now arrived at Delamar. You're within the jurisdiction of the People's Alliance of Delamar. This area is a pretty big area, obviously. So you can't pretty much have every avenue of approach covered. It's possible that people could look for the certain places that someone might come in from to quantum there, but more than likely, people are going to stay outside of the engagement zone around Levski, or that safety bubble around Levski, and start scanning ships as they come in. As the player who's now running the data, you have to make a choice. Should I just try to just kick in the afterburner and just get down to Levski as quickly as possible? Or do I maybe take a more circuitous approach, a much more careful approach, run my ship on very low power and slowly kind of try to sneak my way into Levski? Maybe I've built my Herald around the idea of it being a much stealthier ship. Or maybe I've built my Herald more around it being very fast, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn on in with the afterburners, then turn the ship 180 and burn the other direction. Maximum power, kill that speed right over the landing area within the armistice zone, and no one will be able to scan me fast enough to check if I have the data, and I'll be able to go and complete my mission. So the mission ends off here in Levski. You go into the restaurant La Musaine, you go all the way to the background, and you more or less interact with a data pad or a terminal there, or possibly an NPC later on, and you complete that mission. You've delivered the data, you get the payout for it, and there can be easier, lighter stuff. That there's things that no one's going to send a killer out to hunt you down for, so there's kind of less dangerous types of missions, but then there's also some high value missions as well. In a way, this kind of makes it into almost data mining and data running. Now you can get your standard missions for the more legal type player who just wants to go from point A to point B with usual reports and things like that. But for those who want to use it much more for the risky end of things, they can actually earn much bigger rewards with this. And this is also something that creates gameplay for other players. Now, the drawback to this is, of course, there are only so many heralds within the game. And that's true. And that's a fair criticism of this idea. But the herald isn't alone as a data runner and as basically like an information cracker or a hacking ship. There is another ship that can do this that is far more popular within the Star Citizen player base. That is, of course, the Mercury Star Runner. Now, I would kind of look at these two things, and I would say the Herald is a ship that obviously a certain amount of players own or still own. Myself, I've had it since 2014, since the concept sale. But there are other players out there as well, just like me, who've been holding out for this ship to actually be able to work in the universe. And looking back at Chris Roberts' post where he talks about not cutting corners and not compromising, bringing the Mercury Star Runner out as just another hauler kind of sounds like cutting a corner and compromising to me. In fact, I think it would be a lot better if we could kind of revisit this type of system and look at it as a chance, along with the Mercury Star Runner, to implement something much more meaningful. Get a tier 0 implementation of data running and hacking into the game to complement the data running and hacking ships, plural, that we now have in the game, whose career, or at least part of their career in the case of the Mercury Star Runner, is still so many years later missing from the game.
thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 43's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.